Hello, Louise. Hello, everyone. So I'm Florent, the founder and CEO of Pimento. And today we launched the first session of our meetings with creatives. So today we have the honor in some way of meeting Louise Bonizec, who works a lot with AI, who works a lot with Pimento. And our goal is for you to talk to us about one of your projects, to explain how AI has helped you, how AI has complemented you in some way, and how it has allowed you to go a bit further on a very specific use case. And we are especially going to ask the question today, to what extent can AI support young brands, brands with small budgets or brands with limited resources, to somehow enable them to compete with the big players and truly exploit their creative potential and all their brand universe? And maybe before we start, Louise, once again, thank you for your availability. Can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about who you are, what you did before AI, and since when you've been using AI.
So I have been an art director for 8 years now, mainly in the fashion sector, but I started as a motion designer doing 2D animations, special effects, and post-production. Actually, it was when I was involved with a fully digital fashion media, Mad Officiel, that I learned how to do art direction and respond to briefs according to the given clients. One day we could be working with Chanel and the next day with Nike, so we had to figure out how to adapt to each client while maintaining our values. That's how I learned art direction. I've continued for 5 years in the south of France, in Marseille, where I settled down and live now. AI re-entered my professional journey approximately a year ago when I felt the need to reconnect with the technology-loving passion I seem to have somewhat lost over time. What I discovered is that AI provides an entirely new avenue and tool set for creative expression and problem solving. In particular, I have been able to leverage AI to effectively and efficiently respond to the unique needs of clients, especially those smaller brands who desire high-quality visual content but face the limitation of working within reduced budgets. This innovative technology is particularly empowering for me, offering a fresh approach and solution to cater to the unique demands of these clients for compelling yet budget-conscious visual marketing.
Great. Today you want to talk to us about a particular project, Digger, if I understood correctly.
Exactly. The brand Diggers, a thrift store in Marseille, faced a unique issue because all its clothes are one-of-a-kind finds. They struggled with advertising these clothes through a campaign since, by the time the advertisement airs and reaches potential customers, the specific pieces shown might already be sold out, leading to potential customer disappointment. The objective was to craft a campaign that preserved the essence and values of the brand without showcasing the clothes that are actually on sale.
And typically, what have been the benefits of AI for you already in this context, and then for the brand in particular?
As I told you, for me, it has been a real advantage in the sense that it has been a new creative tool that allowed me to go further to meet a specific demand. And it was also an advantage for those brands that do not always have the budget to do big studio shoots, to have multiple models, stylists, and so on, while still achieving a quality result like those big brands.
And in this process, have you managed to associate the brand? Was there a real exchange? And do you consider this exchange even stronger with AI or about the same?
So for me, the creative process remained more or less the same as my process as an artistic director. That is to say, it necessarily started with a brief, so with an exchange with the client about what she wanted to show, her values. And then you have the mood board part where you really create the general concept and also make decisions like, well, it will be studio work, the choice of models, the choice of styling. Then we obviously have the creation of the visuals and then the choice of visuals and post-production. So for me, my entire creative process was the same as for my other concepts, and it really happened at the mood board stage that AI comes in as a tool to significantly enhance and serve the project's goals, a venture that was essentially designed with the conscious intention to harness its baseline slogan, "Thanks it vintage," on all the clothing items in order to breathe a unique essence of what the brand essentially stands for and epitomizes incorporating its core values and essence into each piece.
Excellent. So it's excellent to know that the 4 or 5 stages of your journey as such, of your creative process as such, were not changed at all, but that you were able to incorporate more or less AI in each of these stages, particularly to meet the brief, which was to not reuse products she was selling since they would quickly disappear. And it seems to me that you've prepared some visuals you produced in your campaign. And I think it would be super interesting to show all these stages of the brief, the mood board, the creation of the models, the visuals, and post-production, and to understand how AI in general and Pimento in particular supported you.
Great, so here we are, still using her vintage phrase. That's what really kept the editorial line of this campaign intact. We went through several stages. The first was the brief where she told me about this baseline. She outlined her issues, concerns, and everything else that had been on her mind. It was at this point that I was able to offer my response by really taking the time to process everything she had shared with me.
Today's brief has only 2 elements to know. One, I can't reuse existing products because they will say what they are and then they will be out of stock very quickly. And two, I want my vintage feng shui to come back across all visuals. There wasn't anything specific in terms of styling, artistic direction, or visual rendering. Did she already have some idea of where she wanted to take her brand?
She had an idea, but it was mainly an exchange at that moment. We decided that we wanted the model and the outfit to be central, so it became quite clear to us that it would be a studio shoot to really focus on the outfit. It was really the moment of mood and concept where we established all those things. That's where really AI is a tool still at the service of humans, and I find that this campaign showcased it quite well, especially in how she got involved in styling and how the phrase could integrate into the clothing. There was also a real thought in the choice of models. Having a plus size model was very important to her. So there was really this exchange to create this whole concept of a white studio blur. Every time we created, it was clear at the phrase level, because that's really what must remain the central point of the campaign, and the blur all around. So these were responses that came a bit in the mood board by exchanging a lot with Chloe. So she's the one who found it.
So basically, if I repeat this, we have a brief at the start. We can't show objects, but we need to highlight the catchphrase quickly. We want to feature mannequins with diversity and still have a certain style of clothing at the heart of the campaign. You quickly think about what you're going to do. Is it going to be in the studio because we want to emphasize the product? So you start working on mood boards later on to begin styling.
And the mood board as well, it's mainly, I actually created it to use the Pimento platform, which basically allows you, well, basically you create your mood board, fill it with an aesthetic style, and then all the images will have this style. So I took time to basically create a mood board like this, where I created visuals of a white studio with artificial intelligence, which I then edited using Photoshop and After Effects to always have this blur effect. And then I saved it on the Pimento platform to always keep the same aesthetic. So that was the process with the Pimento platform.
So you are using an AI, which could be either Pimento or Midjourney, or any other AI that allows you to achieve with your prompt consistency a model, a type of image, I imagine colors as well, and a certain style of photos that are consistent. What's really interesting is that you still do a bit of post-production on these images to ensure even more consistency. The post-production, what do you focus on? Do you play with blur? Do you also adjust colors?
That's right, I worked with colors, added a bit of saturation, and especially focused on the blurs I created. Okay.
So it ensures a huge consequence already. Consistency, yes. Did you have trouble maintaining coherence in these images? Actually,
I managed to achieve this consistency quite quickly because I had already created this style, this mood board with this style, and then I created my models. So there we had Billy and Ellie, and actually on Pimento you can mix and blend your own models with your unique style. And that allowed me to maintain a strong and consistent visual coherence throughout the entire process of creating my visuals.
which you couldn't have done with a traditional AI because it was much harder.
That's truly what stands out as the primary benefit of using the Pimanto platform for me. It's this unique blend of character and style that genuinely enabled me to swiftly and effectively create my visuals while ensuring everything remained cohesive. With my two models in place and my distinctive style defined, I found that even within my prompts, there was no longer a necessity to describe Billy in detail, like noting her short hair or black bob, as she was already saved in my Pimanto character library. All I needed to do was adjust the general style, specify the pose, and tweak the studio lighting just a bit to achieve consistently coherent and excellent images every single time. This streamlined approach really took the hassle out of visual creation for me.
And how does the creation of an AI model happen?
So at the start, well, first there's the mood board with existing visuals, some physical traits that I want, which I then redefine in the prompt, also with the help of ChatGPT, because they do help me find the right words for AI, because they understand each other, they have the same vocabulary. So initially I describe my model in great detail to get several visuals of these models. When I see that some are quite similar, I gather them to really create a character that will always be the same afterwards.
Okay. And do you interact with the client at that point? Precisely because you were saying it was super important for her in terms of diversity. Now, you finally arrived at two models. Was there a lot of interaction, or did you know right away you would go with these two profiles?
No, there were quite a few discussions because it's true that at first I had created Billy, who seemed pretty obvious to me. Initially, I wanted to keep only one model, and by discussing it further with her, there was this idea to include a plus size model, which I revised afterward thanks to Chloe's feedback, which was very important to her, in fact. So throughout the process, there were exchanges with Chloe that allowed me to further develop my answer to its concept.
And does the fact, this is a question some people are asking and which is somewhat debated today, does the fact that these models don't actually exist somewhere, that they aren't references to real people while you're selling real clothes, was this a topic or a question in your discussions?
Not really designed for that specific brief, because actually for us, AI emerged so much as a revolutionary solution to its problem that afterwards, it's true, there were still so many thoughtful exchanges and human elements involved that the idea of creating models using AI wasn't even a question worth considering. There was this undeniable synergy between technological innovation and human creativity that made the traditional concerns about AI in fashion almost irrelevant.
It's excellent what you're saying. It's that, in fact, there's so much human process in your debate, in your exchanges. You've worked so much somewhere what you want as a result that ultimately the fact that the person there, that Billy or Ellie doesn't exist, wasn't the subject, because for you the reflection was so human and full of humanity that the result as such, whether it's a real person or not a real person, mattered little.
Yeah, basically that's it.
It's excellent. It's a good solution too. It's a good answer to all these questions around, yes, but these models don't exist. And it's true because they don't exist that they are not the result of reflection and long discussions between humans somewhere, okay? And so with Chloe, you propose Billy. She comes back with her approach of brand and what she wants to convey through her brand. You come up with Ellie, and hence you find yourself, thanks to AI, with three elements. Well, two elements. One, which is a style where you did a bit of post production. Two, the models. Did you do post production on the models, by the way, or did you just take the AI images?
No, for once on the models, I just grouped those particular ones that looked the most alike each time as I was trying to achieve that exact character, but I didn't do any post-production work myself on those models personally, okay? So
you give them a nickname, and then you train models in Pimento, which are models that belong to you and are secure, with which you can create images. So how does that work?
So I use this mix, as you mentioned, of style and character. And then I just have to create my prompts. Basically, I get a lot of help from a girl I follow on LinkedIn, who is an AI trainer and whom I recommend. Her name is Catherine Aubin, and she's helped me a lot, especially in constructing my prompts. So as we see there, subject, environment, composition, lighting. So every time I didn't even need to restate what my model looked like since it was already saved.
But basically, after that, it granted me the opportunity to ascertain the position, comprehend how she was dressed, and determine the angle of view, which was quite significant and crucial for the entire setup.
And so there you go. I truly and consistently rely on using this series of critical elements in order to thoroughly create and perfect my personalized prompt every time.
And the ideas, because now I see there are a lot of ideas. The prompt is quite long. You have ideas for colors, you have ideas for poses, you have ideas precisely on the angle of view. Where do they come from?
That's also from having worked a lot in fashion, having done a lot of shoots, a lot of filming. So after that, it's true that I already have certain basics of angle of view, lighting, and all that. However, ChatGPT can be a significant help during those critical moments, especially if you don't know exactly how to articulate everything. For instance, say, I know this is a medium shot, but if someone wants to explain it precisely, like saying they want it framed from the waist to the head, they can consult ChatGPT. It aids in synthesizing all those elements with appropriate terms to really craft the most precise possible prompt. This ensures that every aspect is covered, making communication clearer and the creative process smoother.
And also, I found myself using quite a bit, more frequently than I initially anticipated, one of the remarkable Pimento features called Answer Your Prompt. It's truly an invaluable tool, that's how it is, because it assists me in refining my ideas.
And to really be as precise as possible, it will help me be really very precise in the thinking, in writing the prompt.
It's the feature that allows you to take a somewhat simple prompt, enhance it, set up the context, and understand a little of what you want to have a slightly more precise and advanced prompt that gives you more detailed images. More precise, and then how many images do you generate? Is there an exchange where you decide, okay, I won't have this result after all because I don't like the hand, or I notice that the letter isn't a D as I wanted on the banana, but rather another letter? Do you make a lot of adjustments like that on a single result?
Yeah, I generate a lot of photos for a visual. In the end, this is where the human will be very important in this entire creative process because it's all about the choice. It's true that in artificial intelligence you can generate a lot of visuals, and there's really work and reflection involved in choosing visuals so that there's already a harmony between all of them. Then, finding the one where the phrase reads the best, where the colors stand out more, where the model has an adequate pose. So that's where the human truly comes into play in the moment of choosing the visuals after generating a large number of them.
To ensure a consistent and harmonious creative vision in everything that you will propose in the end after generating an array of visuals.
And in this case, does Chloe, your client, intervene in this choice? And if so, when? Do you present her your board with tens of thousands of potential images? No. Or do you pre-select? Or does she come in when there are only 5 left?
Yes, so I do make a pre-selection. Or sometimes I give more than 5, but there's still a pre-selection because otherwise it would be an indecent number of visuals to propose. Also, it's true that part of my role is to choose the most impactful visuals. So there's a pre-screening, but what I like is that basically Chloe steps in again at the end to add even more of her brand's essence. Typically for her, purple is very predominant in her brand's color palette, and she wanted us to incorporate a bit more. So indeed, there was some thought given during post-production,
where she made this kind of specific request, which meant I had to step in and intervene once more, meticulously reworking on various aspects of the visuals using Photoshop, especially towards the end, ensuring that all her desired brand values were truly present, reflecting in the final output. So yes, without a doubt, she does intervene at a particular point, thus you inevitably have multiple iterations to get everything right.
Both on the AI, meaning you can show her and she can select certain directions, then you start reiterating on the AI. But there is also this iteration phase during post-production to integrate her feedback and ensure you align as closely as possible with the brand's vision. C.
is that
And do you do post-production beyond reintegrating? Well, in this case, the color purple for overall image enhancement or coherence for this.
I only had to rework the colors on the project because I had really managed to work on my moods in advance, like I told you, on the models and the style of the photo. And thanks to the retouching I had already done at the start with the blurs and all that. So in fact, I didn't have a lot of post-production except for color.
Excellent. Not even resizing or cropping, you really found the right approaches.
For the formats, of course, I have several because depending on whether it's for Insta, Barrels, Story, or LinkedIn, we had square formats, 9:16 formats, and 3:5 formats. So I've got each visual in every format.
Very good. Excellent. So, would you be able to say how many visuals you generated? By the way, are these visuals already in production, already being used, or have they been partially unveiled?
Yes, partly. So I took the responsibility to ensure everything was delivered to her. In the end, we settled on approximately 10 visuals that were finalized and delivered. She posts them gradually, a little at a time. The concept was to avoid having an intense campaign that showcases existing outfits. Instead, the goal was to allow her the flexibility to publish them on her Insta at her own pace as she decides, aligning with her editorial line, at least for her Insta feed. She wanted it to appear natural and unhurried. But to be clear, each piece was delivered. We agreed on providing 10 visuals in total. And it really allowed her to have the campaign she had in mind for a long time, months and months, and she couldn't see how to achieve it before. Moreover, AI is a realm filled with questions, unknowns, and new ideas. So it was fascinating for her to dive into that aspect and see how AI was actually a tool serving humans, helping address and solve those complex issues and challenges that seemed almost insurmountable before this experience. So no, we got very good feedback and she was quite pleased with this outcome.
Elmine, you went a bit further because first you defined the style that matched what she already had in mind. And second, I get the impression you've also identified people who will support the brand. Do you know if she intends to keep these two models, or conversely, if she wants to create dozens more and continue to develop individuals who will embody her brand? Or is it that ultimately these two people that Billy and Ellie have started to post may perhaps stay where they didn't necessarily expect to have models staying? Also, it's difficult, I think, when you have a brand to always have the same model who is not always available. Here, you will be able to, in a timeless way, embody your brand.
Well, yes, that's really why I was so keen on creating two specific models just for this campaign. They are truly dedicated to diggers, essentially becoming the models of this brand. So if in the future we decide to introduce another tool that may be better suited for an outdoor setting, these models could come back, reinforcing the continuous theme we want to maintain. They symbolize a thread that remains constant even as the concept brief and other aspects change. Thus, these girls will embody the consistent theme throughout various campaigns.
Excellent. Which for a small brand, I was going to say a clothing brand, but that's not even the point of the brand. It's the point of how, as clothes change all the time, there's really a question of how do you manage to maintain an editorial line. And it's indeed extremely difficult beyond the catchphrase and the purple color, and possibly a style that can evolve depending on the season, on the editorial line, which will allow you to have some, to keep this unity. Excellent unit. It really makes you want to check out the Instagram profile. So we'll all go look at it if you take a trip to Marseille. I recommend it. We'll also put the address in the video's comments, and perhaps a little question about you regarding your job as an art director and the impact it can have on your activity and even the potential business model you are considering. How do you see the future? How do you see 2025? And particularly, how do you envision the job of an art director in fashion in the future?
I think artificial intelligence has made quite a lot of progress. We've had very good results, and now it's evolved significantly enough that we can actually have entire campaigns comprised of the same model and stylist visions. So we can also have the possibility to uniquely tailor and personalize our campaigns. Because here, at this point in time, we have the opportunity to work with clothes that don't exist yet. They are essentially virtual creations, but we could very well have also chosen clothes from her store to use them thanks to several photos, to use them on our model virtually. So really, there are advances that mean you can have a very high quality rendering with artificial intelligence, delivering an impressive level of realism that wasn't achievable before. And then for me, it's a bit like 3D. In fact, it's really a tool that will truly serve the brief in a way that's comparable to other digital innovations in the fashion industry, and that will significantly intervene at a given moment, acting as a response depending on the specific issue or challenge at hand.
In this context, briefing becomes even more important. The quality of the brief and the precision of the brief become extremely important. As you said earlier, with the abundance of choices, your ability with your vision and your cultural insight to make the right choices, to find the right elements, to tell the right story becomes even more important. So your job changes, but your fundamental skills, a bit visual of aesthetic culture and as a curator, are even more reinforced. Super. Thank you, Louise. It was really interesting to dive into your exploration process with AI. Perhaps one last question. How can someone contact you if they have a small or large brand that wishes to work with you?
I think the easiest way, the most straightforward path you can take to reach me is to go to my LinkedIn. Yes, either my LinkedIn, where I share quite a lot of interesting and insightful AI visuals, or on my site, lousebonize.com. It's obvious where on this latter platform there is less AI, but it highlights a bit more of my unique universe, my creative world.
Thanks once more for sharing your insights. It's incredibly visual and engaging, and I truly hope to see you around soon for another fascinating creative exploration. With pleasure, see you soon.